All right, we are on Lamed Zayin Omid Beis 37b. What we discussed is the fact that every mitzvah has 16 covenants. Now, without spending too much time on that, because that's what we spent the last two classes discussing, how we get to the number 16, but essentially, every mitzvah has 4 components: learn, teach, perform, and guard. It's every mitzvah. You have to learn about it, you have to teach it, you have to perform it, and you have to guard that you don't mess it up. Yeah, so every mitzvah has 4 components. Now, each of these 4 components are invested with 4 covenants: 2 curses, 2 blessings. The two blessings and the 2 curses are as follows. First is a general blessing. Blessed is the one who follows God. And that applies to every mitzvah. Then there's a specific blessing. Blessed is the one who performs this mitzvah. Likewise, the curses. Curse is the one who doesn't follow God. That incorporates any mitzvah. And then the specific curse is the one who fails to do X mitzvah. So every mitzvah has 4 blessings and curses, 2 blessings, 2 curses. Every mitzvah has 4 components: learn, teach, do, perform, and guard. That's giving us 16. We discussed this at length in the last 2 classes, what these 16 mean. Now, this covenant happens 3 times. Once at Sinai, once when Moshe Rabbeinu repeats the entire Torah at the end of his life in Moav, in the plains of Moav, and then a 3rd time when the Jewish people stand at the mountains of Gerizim and Abel and receive those blessings and curses. So 16 times 3, that's 48. This is where we are at the moment in the Gemara. The Gemara says as follows. Lamed Zayin Amud Beis 37b. And it's about 5 or 6 lines down from the bottom. In the top, the first line of the word is mitzvah, mitzvah, and the 3rd word is reishin, Rabbi Shimon. First 2 words are mitzvah, and the 3rd word is reishin. You're going too far.
Yeah.
The 3rd word, reishin, Rabbi Shimon.
Right.
Rabbi Shimon moitzi har grizim har evel. Rabbi Shimon says, when you count the 3 times that God made this covenant, getting us to 48, each mitzvah 16, and times 3 is 48. So he says, Rabbi Shimon, instead of counting the mountain of Gerizim and Evel as a 3rd time, rather include machnis oil moyed shiva midbar. Include when God speaks to Moshe Rabbeinu in the literally tent of the meeting in Mishkan, in the tabernacle in the desert. So the first opinion was the 3 covenants on Mount Sinai, when Moshe Rabbeinu repeats the entire Torah at the end of his life in the plains of Moab. And number 3, the blessings and curses in the Mount Gerizim and Evel, which happened after the Jews entered the land of Israel under Yeshua, described in the Torah, but it happens later. Or commanded in the Torah, then it happens later. Rabbi Shimon says, no, the one at Mount Gerizim and Mount Evel, that's not one of the 3. Rather, include the time when Moshe Rabbeinu meets and speaks to Hashem in the tent of the meeting. So essentially, the dispute comes down to whether you include all 3 covenants in the desert, or 2 covenants in the desert and 1 in Israel. It's essentially a dispute. Says the Gemara, this dispute as to whether the 3rd covenant is at the mountains of Gerizim and Evel where they got the curses, or it's in the tent of meeting, it's in the Mishkan of the oil mayed, whether that's the 3rd covenant. That is parallel to Tahani Tanoi, to other sages who have a different dispute. The 2 disputes are parallel. The Tanya, for we've learned, Rabbi Shmuel says, Kololis Nemru B'Sinai. When Hashem gave a Torah at Sinai, he gave a general outline, not the specific details, just a general outline of Torah. Protis, and then the specific outline, the specific details, Ba'ayam Moyed, when Hashem speaks to Moshe Rabbeinu in the Mishkan, in the temple, in the tabernacle. So in Rabbi Shmuel's view, the 3rd covenant could not be, the 3 covenants could not be, in Rabbi Shmuel's view, Sinai, Oyel Moyed, the Moshe's meeting in the Mishkan, and then the plains of Moab. Because Sinai and the meeting in the Mishkan is one of the same covenant, one in the general outline and one in the specific. So they only count as one. So Rishma would have to say the third one is an amount of Grizim and Abel. Whereas Rabbi Kiva says, at Sinai, both the general outline of Torah and the specific details were given at Sinai. The Nishnu, when they were reviewed, Ba'ayel Moyed, when Hashem spoke to Moshe Rabbeinu in the Mishkan, Hashem reviewed all the details. The Nishtalshlu, and it was a third time reviewed, Ba'arvais Moyav in the plains of Moyav. So in Rabbi Kiva's view, this clearly can be the three covenants. Once Sinai, once when Moshe Rabbeinu meets Hashem, speaks to Hashem in the Mishkan, and the third time is the plains of Moab. Clear? Clear on this?
Is Rabbi Shema the same from the Mishnah? The Rabbi Shema?
Yes.
Okay.
Same Rabbi Shema.
Yeah.
Yes, we clear on this dispute. Rabbi Shema and Rabbi Kiva are often disputants. They're contemporaries and often disputants.
Let's say it again. The dispute.
So Rabbi Shema just disputed as to how Hashem communicated at Sinai. That's the question.
Okay.
Rabbi Shema says God communicated in general outline, and then specify the details of that in his meeting at the Mishkan, which means in Rabbi Shema's view, the Mishkan communication and the Sinai communication are really one communication that just happens in two times. So that can only be counted as one covenant.
Okay.
And therefore, how would you get to three? If that's one, if the meeting of Mishkan and Sinai is one, you get to three by saying the second one is when Moshe Rabbeinu reviewed the Torah at the end of his life in Moab. And the third one is the curses and blessings later. That would be Rabbi Shema. Which Rabbi Kiva says that when the Torah was given, at Sinai, it was given with all of its details. So the entire Torah, general and details, were given at Sinai. What happens in the Oyel Moed then, when Hashem speaks to Moshe Rabbeinu in the temple, in Mishkan? It's a review of all those same general outline and details. So that's covenant number 2. What would covenant number 3 be? When Moshe Rabbeinu reviews the Torah to the Jewish people at the end of his life. And therefore, you don't include the amount of Grizim and Abel, which would parallel Rabbi Shimon's view. We said earlier that the 3 covenants are Sinai, the meeting in the Mishkan, and the plains of Moab, excluding the mountain, the blessings and curses of the mountain. That doesn't count as part of the 3 covenants.
So Rabbi Ishmael, what was the second covenant?
His second covenant would be the plains of Moab, and the third one. The question is, do you include the amount of Grizim? No, do you include the oil moed?
Right.
Or do you include the amount of Grizim? Right? But the oil moed is just an extension of Sinai, and you can't include that as a separate covenant. And if you would include the mountain of Grizim and Abel. So this we have these 2 disputes. The dispute as to whether the third one is the mountain of Grizim of Abel or oil moed, that dispute parallels the dispute as to what the communication was at Sinai and the Mount and Mishkan. Whether it was one communication divided into general and specific, or it was the same thing twice. Yeah. Okay. Now, the Mishnah therefore concluded, the ein lach called mitzvah davar var mitzvah. You don't have any mitzvah. Sheksuv b'Torah, that's written in the Torah, shalei nichnas olah, about which there was not. What's the word? What's the verb for a covenant? About which a covenant was made. Arboim Mishmona Prises, 48 times. An agreement, yeah. So the Mishnah concluded we have 48 covenants for each and every single mitzvah. I explained the breakdown, right? Because you have 16, because every mitzvah has 4 components: learn, teach, perform, guard. And each of those 4 have 4 blessings and curses. 2 blessings, 2 curses. General blessing, specific blessing, general curse, specific curse. So 4 times 4 gives 16. Covenant happens 3 times, 48. So every single mitzvah has 48 covenants. Gemara takes it even farther. Rabbi Shimon ben Yehuda ish Kfar Akko Amar. Rabbi Shimon, son of Yehuda from the town of Akko, says, Mishum Rabbi Shimon, in the name of Rabbi Shimon. Anytime it says Rabbi Shimon without any suffix, it's Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai. So Rabbi Shimon, son of Yehuda, speaks in the name of Rabbi Shimon, son of Yochai, saying as follows. Indeed, ein lecha mitzvah sheksuv b'Torah shaloi nichnasu Allah arba shmanim b'risais. Indeed, there's no mitzvah that has less than 48 covenants, but those 48 covenants are times shel sheis meyos elef u'shloishes alafim v'chamis beis v'chamishim. That 48 covenant is done 3,550. Right? Yes. 600,000, 603,000, 550. How to get to that number? Because that's the amount of Jews there are in the desert. That's the census. Now, every Jew is responsible for every other Jew. So I have 48 covenants for each mitzvah, but I'm also responsible for every other Jew to fulfill the mitzvah. So that 48 covenant is that 48 times covenant is given to me for each mitzvah 603,550 times, because I'm responsible for each and every other Jew's 48 covenants for each mitzvah. Sorry? They did. And also the census is only from 20 to 60. People under 20 didn't get Torah. People above, and with women, right? So on its like this number 600,000 is like there's 600,000 archetypical Jewish souls from which every other soul breaks down. Right? Because nowadays there's much more than 600,000 Jews. So Rabbi Shimon's calculation doesn't work out anyway today, because I have 48 covenants for each mitzvah times what 13 million in the world, 13 million, right? So why give this number when it's so specific just to the desert? Okay, so the basic way of looking at it is because, well, that was a time when the Torah was given to those people. But like you said, the Torah is given to women. In fact, the Torah says Hashem said to Moshe Rabbeinu, speak to the women first. Right? First tell the women, then tell the men. So the women are also part of this covenant. Right? And so are the people under 20 and over 60. But this number, its deeper spiritual level, is like like we're talking about on Shabbos. That the Jewish soul starts as one Jewish soul, and then it breaks down into the millions. So before it breaks down into the millions, it breaks down first into the 600,000, and then those 600,000 break down. Right. So this number of Jews is really the incorporative of all Jews. Okay. So this is Rabbi Shimon's view that the 48 covenants for each mitzvah is times 603,550 for every single Jew on the planet. So each of my mitzvahs is not just me, myself, excuse me, but it's every Jew. The responsibility I have and the covenant I made with Hashem to share that with every Jew.
One thing I know for sure, my soul didn't come down from court.
That's not. Okay, now we're going to get even further. Ready? Amar Rabbi says, the Divi Rabbi Shimon ben Yehuda ish Kfar Akko, if we're going to follow the logic of Shimon, son of Yehuda from Akko, Sha'amar Mishum Rabbi Shimon, we spoke in the name of Rabbi Shimon, if we're going to follow his logic, which is, Ein lach kol mitzvah sheba Torah. There is no mitzvah in the Torah, shalei nichas olah, about which there was not made for Arba Mishmona, but it says 48 covenants. Shall sheish moyes elef v'shleish lav v'chamesh moyes v'chamishim of 603,550. If that's the case, then nimtza, the result is l'chalach avechem Yisrael, for each and every Jew, sheish moyes elef v'shleish lavim v'chamesh moyes v'chamishim. You have 603,550. Any problem with the statement I just said?
Maybe the numbers don't add up.
You just repeated yourself. 603,550. So what did Rabbi just add? Rabbi just said, according to Rishimon's logic, that each person has 603,550. The result is every Jew has 603,550. You just repeated yourself.
Yeah.
Said the Gemara, my benayu. What's the distinction between what Rabbi said, adding to that which Rabbi Shimon already said? So Rabbi Sharsha says, you're missing something. Arva, the arva ikibanayu. The difference is the responsibility I bear for other Jews, and then the responsibility I bear for the responsibility of other Jews. So, in other words, this is how Rashi breaks it down. One way of thinking about this is, if there's 48 covenants for every mitzvah I have, plus I'm responsible to make sure every Jew fulfills every other mitzvah also. So every one of my mitzvahs that have 48 covenants is timed by 603,550. Now the question becomes, I'm responsible for Meir Hakenbo's behavior. That's what Arvos is. This Arvos means guarantor or intermingled. So all Jews are intermingled / different translations, but the basic one is we are all guarantors for each other. So I'm taking a guarantee, I'm guaranteeing that Meir is going to perform the mitzvah. Now Meir took a guarantee that he's going to make sure every other Jew is performing the mitzvah also. So what am I responsible for? For Meir's mitzvah? Or am I also responsible for Meir's responsibility to every other Jew? So am I just a guarantor for his behavior, or am I a guarantor for his guarantee? And that's what Rabbi is adding. If we're going to take the logic of Rabbi Shimon, that every Jew is responsible for every other Jew, then he's also responsible for every other responsibility of every other Jew. So he's guarantor to all of their guarantees, taking his 600,000 itself and timing it by 600,000. So not only is every Jew responsible to inspire every other Jew, but every Jew is responsible to inspire every other Jew, that they in turn become inspiring people.
Right, right.
If there's one Jew in the world, since the history of dawn of time, who took this seriously, who would that be? Rabbi. Not only did he make it as a job to the Makar of Jews, many people made it their jobs to the Makar of Jews. But they made it his job to inspire all his followers to take the responsibility of reaching out. Not only that, he told his followers, you make other followers who are also going to be inspired to share to inspire the Jews. They took this very, very seriously.
Yeah.
Literally, sent shluchim everywhere and told shluchim, shliach oiser shliach. The shliach himself should make another shliach. That each person who takes responsibility for Jews should himself inspire those about whom he takes responsibility, that they should also take responsibility for other Jews. So while, for generations, the idea was powerful, now it's practical.
Yeah.
It's being played out in reality.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Quite something.
How could there be a curse for putting on tefillin?
For failing to put on tefillin. So we discussed this yesterday. You watched the class yesterday?
What part of
Haven't watched class yesterday. Explained yesterday.
it?
Yeah, I haven't listened to yesterday's class. I break down exactly how we get to 16, how we get to 4, and how there's a blessing and a curse for each mitzvah, what it means. It's an important class, yesterday's class. You can have a look at that. It'll make you understand everything much at a much deeper level.
It also reminds me of the pasuk, B'nai Yisrael ma'aminim, b'nai ma'aminim.
Believers, sons of believers. I mean, it's a passage of the Gemara here.
Oh, okay. Maybe it's not as deep because it's not saying that you're responsible for the beliefs of other people.
Well, here we're saying you are.
Yeah, so this is like.
Now that statement is saying that inherently every Jew is connected.
Oh, okay. So
right?
It's a
We're believers, sons of believers. The message is that no matter what, you're connected.
Right.
But it isn't a connected message in the sense that if you want to inspire other Jews, the first thing is to understand that the other Jew already believes.
Right. Right.
Don't think like the other Jew already has his Yiddishkeit.
Yeah.
You just got to inspire it, wake it up, touch it, move it.
Yeah.
It's already there.
Yeah.
It's the best way to inspire other people, especially if you want to get then they should inspire others and so on and so forth.
Yeah. Still they're cool.
Stoke the coals that are already there, the embers. Okay, so a little late today, but we'll stop over here and God willing, tomorrow we'll continue our discussion about these blessings and curses. More discussion coming on that, about the mountains of Gerizim and Evel. And then we will get back to the halachas that we started off with, not the laws of the Sotah, but the laws of what is and is not to be said in Hebrew and what can be done in translation. That was our whole beginning of this whole discussion. Remember that? Forgot about that. We're talking about the Sotah law, and whether you have to say whether the Kohen has to administer the oath to the woman in the original Hebrew, or can he say it in English? And we had a whole bunch of mitzvahs that you can say in any language, not English, but any language you want. And some mitzvahs, well, no, you have to keep the original Hebrew. And all the mitzvahs that you have to keep the original Hebrew is built on the fact that the blessings and curses were done in the specific Hebrew. And any mitzvahs which share a correlation with the blessings and curses scripturally is how we establish they to be done in Hebrew. So when we're done our discussion about the blessings and curses, we're going to go back to the Mishnah. The Gemara is going to continue with the next Mishnah, which gets back to the halachas of what is to be said in the original language and what can be said in any language. So we're coming towards the end of this digression. Okay, you can have a wonderful day. Tomorrow's a Chodesh.
Yeah.
So might be a little late start tomorrow as well.